What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we continue our X-Men reading journey. So we start on issue 135 that debuted on July of 1980. As you can see here in the first page, it says, "Witness the birth of a god." We zoom out and it's the Dark Phoenix. So this is kind of like her official first appearance as Dark Phoenix and not just the Phoenix. You see all the buildings right here in the bottom. Here is still the big trio of Chris Claremont on writing, John Byrne on art, and Terry Austin on inks. This was a legendary story arc, so the three got a lot of credit for it, and rightfully so. But I don't think they mentioned the colorist enough, because on the last issue, it definitely stepped up its game. And here, I believe this is a different colorist. Here it is Tom Orzechowski and Bob Sharon. So in the last story arc, the X-Men had just finished defeating the Hellfire Club. And Jean Grey, at the end of the issue, started turning evilish. So now the big bad really wasn't the Hellfire Club. It turns out it was all set up for a big showdown with Jean Grey herself, but as the Dark Phoenix. Since Storm can also fly like Jean Grey, she kind of tries to defend the X-Men because she's the one that somewhat has a chance between Cyclops and Wolverine and her. And Jean Grey right here says, "Yours was an admirable ploy, Storm, but escaping me won't be that easy." Cyclops says, "Why are you attacking us? For pity's sake, Jean Grey, why?" Well, that's easy because the bitch lost her mind. She's been controlled by a alien entity that is super powerful, the Dark Phoenix. So the Dark Phoenix isn't necessarily Jean Grey. Jean Grey is just the host. The Phoenix, it's like its own character. It's totally its own person. Obviously, the X-Men don't know this themselves. So here Storm again tells her, "Jean, no more, I beg you. Why are you doing this? We're your friends. Let us help you." Jean Grey says, "It is too late for help, Aurora. For me, for you, it's too late for the universe." God damn. For the universe, like she's got nuts. Again, I think here Terry Austin, he really elevates John Byrne's art when he's trying to make Jean Grey look evilish, because I think the way she looks and the energy she's trying to give out, it depends heavily on the inking here. Make her look a lot darker. I don't mean like in tone, I mean just in like personality. We get back to the two Hellfire Club members that escaped, which was Sebastian Shaw and Pierce. So we're talking to Robert Kelly here, and he's telling Sebastian, I am so sorry about this." So in the public's eyes, the Hellfire Club, they're a bunch of rich snobs that were just having a party for rich people, right? And politicians and stuff like that. People that are higher up in society. And these mutant X-Men, they just attack the party. So it says here, "To all concerned, the X-Men, they're obviously criminals." And Robert Kelly, since he is a politician and stuff, he will have none of that. So he's clearly angry right here, and he will help his good friend Sebastian Shaw. So they're gonna fight to have new laws against mutants and get harder on crime, and we know how all this stuff goes. Here we see Sebastian Shaw tell him, "By all means do so, Captain, but there is, however, another alternative. A bit more long-term one that will deal most effectively with these mutant menaces, and at the same time be completely unquestioned, under federal government control." Robert Kelly says, "Oh, what? What is that?" And Sebastian Shaw lets him know, "Sentinels." As they're having this conversation, the fight with Jean Grey and the X-Men, it spills over to where they're at, and they're part of New York. So they see the Phoenix flying around in the air, and you're just proving them right more, basically. We see here Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, everybody in the Marvel Universe, they're all seeing what's happening. They could see the Dark Phoenix, the Firebird in the air. And one bad mutant that's gone crazy and she's gonna ruin the reputation of everybody, right? Here we go back to Angel's mansion, and the narration here says his house guest is the X-Men's founder and mentor, Professor Charles Xavier. You see Charles Xavier here having a conversation on the intercom, and he says, I felt a tremendous burst of psionic energy, Moira. So he's talking to Moira McTaggart, as if someone had triggered a giant-sized psyche H-bomb. And then it says, I can confirm what you already suspect, Charles. The source was Jean Grey. The Phoenix is out of control, Moira McTaggart is telling Professor Xavier. And we see over here, back in England, it's Moira McTaggart and it's Banshee. Again, we fly back to the Dark Phoenix, and she's flying in outer space now. So her power it's so strong, she can fly in space and, live and not die with because, in space there's no air or anything, but she can survive out there. So she's like in another level of powers at this moment, and she's completely lost control. We see NASA here. The humans are seeing, hey, there's a crazy mutant out there. So this is just a terrible look for everybody. Humans, other aliens, and other planets. Everybody has seen this, and now mutants are public enemy number one across the galaxy. So Jean Grey, she's about to explode here because she's just full of energy. She's like this big giant ball of fire, and she has to release it. So once she releases it, she aims it straight towards this planet. Now these innocent aliens at this place, they just see a big fireball coming their way. So think like a comet just landing on Earth, completely destroying the whole planet. So she killed every living thing in this place. So this is like a huge deal. While this planet is being destroyed, we see a ship flying in space, and this ship takes notice of what just went down. This is a Shi'ar. It says here, this is a Shi'ar Imperial battlecruiser, first of its class, and one of the deadliest warcrafts the Empire has ever seen. So the Shi'ar Empire is think like a government for space. So they're gonna lay down the law, and who caused this is gonna have to pay, and that's Jean Grey. We zoom in here to the Shi'ar Empire, the battleship, and it says here, Debari has just gone supernova. Science officer explanation, and he says, I have none, my lord. Then it says, Debari was just an average G normal star. It might flare, but not explode. This shape is very Star Trek like. You could tell the artists here, or the creators of the Shi'ar Empire, they were like sci-fi fans, because it's very reminiscent. So then we have this guy say, my lord, based on this morning's starcast, Debari was a perfectly healthy star. We charted no abnormal matrix. And it says, this should not have occurred. And then the other guy says, unless something made it occur. As they're having this conversation, they're looking out through the window, and you see the shock in his face. Like he just got really surprised right now. We look out the window to see what he's seeing, and we're all seeing the same thing. It's the Dark Phoenix, and she's a big, huge fireball right now of power. This situation, once we're talking about space and galaxies, then it's a big deal, because now we're not just talking about Earth. So it's like cosmic levels of importance. And we're really building up Jean Grey going crazy as like something so important, not just in New York, not just on Earth, but like in the whole galaxy. So this is like big time, and we're still not able to stop her here, but we're building her up to be super famous, and not in a good way. So yes, guys, everybody is worried all across the planets and stuff, because women should not have power because they don't know what to do with it. Now that's not really the message they're sending here, but some people will argue that it is. It's a story, guys. Calm down. It's a comic book. So anyways, she's clearly being possessed, like we said. And again, I can't phrase this enough. This is not Jean Grey. This is the Dark Phoenix doing this. It's the Phoenix, not her. It's just using her body. Here are the X-Men are like stressed out about what's happening, because they know at this point, it's not Jean Grey, but they know she's the villain. And since the Phoenix is just an entity, they know physically Jean Grey's body is the one that's gonna have to pay. We're having a council here with aliens from all kinds of different planets, and the leader of the Shi'ar Empire, Lilandra, she's trying to make a case for Jean Grey. Here she says, when I first met Phoenix, she was a terrain female named Jean Grey, a beneficent entity. She and her fellow X-Men helped stop my mad brother from unleashing Armageddon. Now it seems the child's beneficent no longer. I fear as well that she means to pick up where my brother left off. So she's gonna take over the world or destroy it in some way. And she says right here again, ministers of the Empire, if the universe is to survive, Phoenix must be destroyed. So that was like the holy shit moment. Meanwhile, on Earth, the President of the United States is asking, is this an alien entity? Are we under attack? And he's saying, call the Avengers. Then here a very odd thing happens. We get back to Jean Grey and she lands in her old neighborhood before she became an X-Men. When she left as a teen, it's her parents' house. And she just stands in front of it, and you see here in the narration, it says, for a time the young goddess stands unmoving in the front yard, wondering why she came back here to her old home. So when you're like in your most need or whatever, you go back to where you remember or where you're comfortable. So she's just going back to her parents. She goes in the house and all the lights are off. It's dark and it's the middle of the night. Everybody's asleep. So it looks very eerie. It looks almost more like a horror movie right here, or like a horror comic book in this situation, than it does like a sci-fi or superhero stuff. Very eerie. And you see the dad turns on one of the lights and he says, who's there? And she says, would you believe it's the Wicked Witch of the West? And he says, oh, that voice, it's Jean. Jean Grey has psychic powers, right? So she can kind of read her parents' thoughts and stuff like that, and she could get the vibe. Like at this moment, you don't need superpowers to realize her parents are kind of nervous around her, and she notices it, and it pisses her off, especially because right now she's still like the Dark Phoenix. So she still has more of a temper, and she's angry that her parents are kind of scared of her. Here she says, I'm reacting to their thoughts, not their words. You fear me, all of you. And with good reason, because what I do to this plant, I can just as easily do to you. And she just destroys the plant basically by looking at it. And they're like kind of scared of her right here, and they're like, what has gotten into you? So they get kind of in an argument and she flies away. So it's kind of, like even like a teen girl, when she becomes an adult, her parents still treat her like a teen and they have this conflict. This is kind of what's going on right here. As she flies away, again the X-Men show up and another showdown, and again it's Phoenix versus Storm. They're just going at it because they're the two that can fly, and Storm is probably the second most powerful to Phoenix, so she's the only one that somewhat stands a chance. Wolverine creeps up from behind and he grabs her, and Jean Grey kind of takes control of the Dark Phoenix, and then she tells Wolverine, kill me right now while I'm in control of the Phoenix, so I can let you do it before Phoenix comes back. Then you don't stand a chance, basically. And he hesitates because it's still Jean Grey and he doesn't want to kill her. They want to see if there's another way they could get the Dark Phoenix out of her. The boyfriend shows up. Cyclops finally makes his way to the battle, and Jean Grey is telling him, have you come here to fight? I really hope so. And Cyclops says, no, I have come here to talk. His words seem to calm her down, and she kind of takes control over the Phoenix momentarily, and it looks like she's just ready to faint. Then the weirdest thing happens. She sees Professor X and she immediately gets angry, and she kind of turns back into the Phoenix and she blows Professor Xavier away. I kind of think that when she saw Professor X, she saw him as a threat because he's just as powerful as her. So that woke her back up into battle mode. After all this, it's kind of just Jean Grey and the Phoenix. She's just fighting herself at this point now. she kind of wins for this moment. She gets rid of the Phoenix and she almost just faints again. Now everybody is left chatting with each other because they want to know what are we gonna do then. Is it going to come back? Is it not going to come back? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. At this moment, all the X-Men are teleported into space. And wow, this was out of nowhere. Like, they barely got rid of the Phoenix and they get teleported into space and the Shi'ar Empire is there. And they're talking to the X-Men like, Jean Grey has to go to trial and she has to answer for her crimes. Cyclops tells Lilandra, no, the Phoenix, it's undone. It's no longer there. And she tells Cyclops, you may believe that, and it may be so, but it may not be so. We can't take that chance. She blew up a planet. No, we can't sit here waiting for it to happen again. And even if it doesn't happen again, she still has to pay for those crimes. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think rightfully so. You gotta go to court for what you did. It's like a drunk driver. Yeah, you weren't yourself. You were drunk, but you still ran people over, right? So I know some people think, oh, but she had no control. But yeah, I mean, you gotta go to court and let the law decide. Here we show other powerhouses from space or the galaxy, being the Skrulls, the Kree Empire, and then the Shi'ar Empire. So think like the big countries, right? China, Russia, United States. And they're all talking about it, like what are we gonna do here, and what would be the appropriate action to take at this moment. Xavier, having lived in space and with the Shi'ar Empire for a while, because he was dating Lilandra, he's kind of familiar with their laws and the galaxies and all that. And he threw down the gauntlet, which is kind of like a law they have, that the X-Men will challenge her Shi'ar Empire soldiers. This way, they at least have a fighting chance. If they win, Jean Grey goes free. If they lose, I believe it's death. So now they have accepted this challenge, and shit gets kind of eerie here because we don't know what's gonna happen. Now the X-Men are not allowed to leave the ship. They're gonna have a big showdown the following day. So they're all kind of just going to their rooms, relaxing, and they all get time to themselves to kind of just think about what's gonna happen tomorrow. They're gonna literally be fighting for their lives. And you see everybody just being comfortable in their rooms. Colossus laying down his clothes, walking around in his boxers. So is Wolverine, a little eye candy for everybody. And then, of course, we got Storm. She loves to sleep nude. She doesn't even wear lingerie. So, yeah, we get a little something for everyone, like I said. And you just feel it's like the calm before the storm. Cyclops and Jean Grey are talking, almost like saying their last goodbyes in case they don't see each other again. The next morning, the X-Men, they've been teleported to the moon. But in this part of the moon, it kind of has like a dome over it so that it's safe for people from Earth to breathe and like survive in this atmosphere. So this is like a battlefield. It's like think of it as a gladiator arena. So the X-Men are here already, and they're just kind of waiting for the team that the Shi'ar Empire sends their way. So they're a little nervous because they're like, we didn't have no prep time. We don't know who we're facing. We don't know their superpowers. So they don't know how to prepare or like strategize because they don't know what it is they're facing. So that has them off guard, and the other team clearly knows everything about them, their powers, who they are. So they have a huge advantage here. Battle breaks off as it's supposed to. Everybody is fighting everybody. And it's a big dome, so there's plenty of places to run, hide, strategize, and stuff like that. And we're here in this situation where Wolverine is walking around and Storm shows up. Like, oh, Wolverine, I found you. And Wolverine just grabs her and slams her. So we're like, what the hell, right? So then we find out it changes and it's a shapeshifter, one of these Skrulls. They're very famous in the Fantastic Four comic books. But I thought that was a very cool scene because it kind of shows you what what the X-Men are facing. Like you don't know who's who because these are all new villains to you, and they're not even technically villains. They're just here to like uphold the law. They're kind of like just gladiators. And speaking of gladiators, the big bad from the Shi'ar Empire, his name is Gladiator. He's this douchebag with the mohawk, right? Think of him almost like a Superman type character. So he's their strongest guy. Colossus is the X-Men's strongest, so they're kind of going at it here toe to toe. I believe Gladiator is like far stronger than Colossus is, and here he kind of shows it. And here he shows that he's kind of winning this fight fairly easily. He punches Colossus, he goes flying. When Colossus hits him over the head with a whole big building, basically doesn't even phase him. So we know their powers are not on the same level. One guy is clearly more powerful. A better challenge for him would be Jean Grey because she's actually more powerful. She just doesn't have muscles. But one thing we gotta know in these superhero comics, muscles doesn't dictate who's more powerful. It's who's wielding the biggest gun, basically, meaning their superpower. Xavier is he's watching to like a TV screen, and he's seen how his X-Men are losing because there's cameras everywhere in this place, and he knows they kind of don't have a chance. It's an uphill battle, and Lilandra's here, and she's feeling bad for Xavier, and she kind of feels bad for them because she knows they're good people, but she also, as an empress, knows she has to uphold the law, and she knows that Dark Phoenix is no longer just Jean Grey. It's an entity that took over her and it cannot be trusted. So she's just put in an awful situation, and it's a very emotional moment for both of them because these are guys getting punished that don't really deserve it. Right here, she's back in her old uniform, the Marvel Girl uniform, not the Phoenix one. So she's kind of like, if I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go out like, in her original costume, where she started. So it's kind of like symbolic, and it's a pretty cool scene here. She's talking to Cyclops. She blocks everything with her psyche. They can't see her, so they're like blocked off, and they're having a moment. They hold hands right here because they know this is like it's like Bonnie and Clyde almost, right? Like we're gonna jump off the cliff right now. This is the end. So as soon as she lets down the telepathic shield, so the villains could see her because she can only hold it for so long, they run in, guns blazing against the Death Squad, and you kind of feel it because that scene did a good job of letting you know like they're heading towards their demise. They're gonna lose this battle. So when they run in there against these other three guys from the Empire, it's almost like watching fireworks. So I like the artwork here. There's a lot of shooting, fire, flying rocks to give you that feel that it's fireworks. And if that isn't enough, it shows the sun in the background. So you see a big star, really bright. And it just looks like the 4th of July. So I thought that was really well done right here. As the X-Men are losing this battle, the Phoenix power, it possesses Jean Grey again. It possesses her because it's in a survival mode. So if she loses or she dies, so does the Phoenix, or it feels that way, right? It feels threatened, so it takes over her body. Once this happens, Professor Xavier contacts Cyclops telepathically. He tells him, "You gotta take her out. She's becoming the Phoenix again, and before she becomes the Phoenix, you won't be able to stop her then. So take her out now." Cyclops, he still sees Jean Grey, so he loves her too much. He can't do it. But Professor X controls his mind because he has that type of power. And this is no longer Cyclops. This is Professor X controlling Cyclops. And he starts shooting at her. And then Colossus rushes over there and he just slugs her one good one. Because they're not seeing Jean Grey. They're now seeing the Phoenix. And she gotta be put down. Jean Grey runs away, but she stands in front of this huge cannon, this like gun, laser gun. She tells Cyclops, I have to do this myself." So she stands in front of this laser, and it just shoots her, and she turns into a pile of ashes. And that's pretty much it. She's dead. The battle's over. The Watcher is right here, as he does, watching over everything. Jean Grey is now dead. The Phoenix is dead. That's all they cared about. They didn't care about the rest of the X-Men. They had done nothing wrong. So they consider the battle over. who needed to die is now dead. Justice has been served, pretty much. So everybody goes back to Earth. Everybody goes back to their normal lives. The issue kind of ends there. And this is the second time in this reading journey that Jean Grey has sacrificed herself for the team. But the first time, she did not have the Phoenix, or at least at this point in time, that's what we're led to believe. So, yeah, guys, that's the end of the issue. Hopefully, you guys stick around for the next episode. Go ahead and hit that like button, and I'll check you guys out next time.